Well, hi folks, happy Friday. I hope this finds that everybody is having a great week and getting ready for a great weekend. I know here on the homestead, Jen and I are. So today's video is a little different than most of all of our other videos in the sense is that I'm actually filming this today on Friday. And we're going to be releasing this, well, if you're watching this, I've already released it, but we are releasing it this evening. And the reason that we're wanting to get this video out today and get it filmed today specifically is because this is a garden update. Now, most of the videos that you see, we have done all of the video taping, and I then go back later and put the videos together, edit them, and then publish them as the final product. Right now I'm about 2.5 to 3 weeks behind, which is okay for us. It allows us to get a lot of footage and then allows me to spend the time that I need to do the editing. Since even though we've done 100+ videos, I still am learning on how to do the editing, and we're trying new things and doing different things, and you know, having that buffer there allows us to do it without feeling a lot of pressure. So let's get into today's video. This is the garden update. Now, we haven't done any garden updates this year, primarily because we have been so busy with projects on the homestead. We just haven't had the time to get out here, and this is long overdue. Now, before we start showing different parts of the garden, there's a few things you need to know. Number one, 95% of everything we're going to show you and everything that we're growing here, Jen actually seeded in winter sowing in the milk jugs that you see hanging around our garden. I'm going to leave the link to that video in the description. If you haven't seen it yet, please go check that video out. We put a lot of time and energy into winter sowing these seeds without having any idea of how successful it was going to be. So the last thing I'm going to say to you before we get into the garden itself is there are a lot of projects going on, and like I said a few minutes ago, we are about 2 to 3 weeks behind in publishing videos that we have already filmed, and so some of the camera angles might be a little weird, and it's really because I don't want to give away the surprise of some of the things that we're doing here. So I've got to be able to shield some of those projects going on, but rest assured, those videos are coming. All right, so let's go take a look at the garden. So over here to the right, obviously, is our corn. Now, all of this corn, except for the last 2 rows here, we actually grew from seed. So I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Those tall ones back there, we put those into the winter sowing, and we grew those in those milk jugs. As you can see, we've got a lot of tassels starting on this corn. We are so excited for having this. I think we planted like 70, 75 seeds. Every single one of them is growing. And to give you an idea of how well they're growing, I'm 5'6". So this is one of the beds of squash and zucchini that's in the back that we started. And this bed is actually on hay bales that we then put some loam on, and then we threw the squash in there. And it has really just taken off. We have so many squash in here that are ready to be picked. We're so thrilled and excited that these took off the way that they did. But the best part about this is only one of 2 patches of squash that we have. Now, over here along the fence, we've got our dill, which did phenomenal this year. This is the first time we've ever planted dill, and it just really, it blew up over here, which is awesome. And then over here we've got some, I think this is the lemongrass, I think it's called. Yep, it's lemon. So staying along the fence here, these really are Jen's pride and joy. These are sunflowers that she grew from seed in the winter sowing, and as you can tell, they are all just doing phenomenal. It's unbelievable how well these are coming along. Some of them here, like that big one in the back, I can't even see if it's flowering yet. They're so tall. Now down on the ground here at the ground level, we've got some raspberries growing, and we've got a couple of grape plants growing in the back here as well. We didn't expect anything this year. We don't really expect anything next year, but this, over the next couple of years, we'll develop this into a raspberry/grape patch. Okay, so now we are in the middle of our 3 rows that we created. Really kind of sandwiched them lasagna style. We've got a log in the bottom, then we threw wood chips, and we've got some hay and loam and all kinds of other goodies. Well, on this row here, we've got some okra, we've got some beets, and then we have 1 small pepper plant at the end, and we've got a couple of heads of lettuce here that we had to transplant from our bin because we ran out of space in the bin. So we've got those growing, and everything seems to be doing really good. So in this middle row, we planted carrots. The carrots at the end here were all done in winter sowing. The rest of these were seeds. Not so good on the seed side, but we are getting some. We'll see how it turns out. Next year we're going to do things a little bit differently, I think, but we still have to figure that out. So this is our onion row. Gotta be honest, it really failed, I think. I mean, we've got a couple of onions here that are popping up, but this really was not a very good yield on this row, and so I think we're going to do things a little bit differently next year. This was the first year for this, and we wanted to try it out, but we definitely need to do a few things differently. So one of the most successful parts of the garden has really been our Ruth Stout bed. These are where all of our potatoes are growing, and though all of the potatoes didn't come up, the ones that have, looking great. We couldn't be happier with what we've got so far. The second bed we do have some potatoes coming up. A little weak looking, but they're coming up nonetheless. And one of my favorite aspects of the garden is this little trellis that we built. And this is where all of our pole beans are. They are starting to run up. They were a little slow, I think, as far as growing, but over the last couple of weeks, they've really kind of kickstart themselves, and they're starting to run. So if you've been following our channel, you know that these plastic bins here that we used to move to Maine with, we made garden beds out of them. Our tomatoes are doing phenomenal. We've got a head of lettuce here that's doing fantastic. We've had so much lettuce from this bin over here, where we've had our wild lettuce growing and field mustard. Over here we've got our peas, and we've got more peas over there. Everything seems to be doing great except for one. Not really sure what happened to our spinach, but it was doing really good, and then it just kind of died off on us. So if you happen to know what might have done this, please go ahead and leave it in the comments, because we're a little devastated by it. Now, who does not like cucumbers? We have already started harvesting cucumbers off of our bed here, and these things are just going nuts. I just count probably 6 or 7 cucumbers that are just about ready to harvest. So we will definitely be eating cucumbers tomorrow. Now this green pepper bed really started off slow. And for a while there, we were wondering whether or not they were ever going to take off. And then all of a sudden, just, you know, over the course of about 2 weeks, they took off beautifully. Every single one of them that we planted in here has made it, but 2. And those 2 died early on, so we pulled those out, and this is what we've got left, and we couldn't be happier. So over in this bed here, another hay bale bed. We threw some loam on it. We grew some cantaloupe. Now, we've never grown cantaloupe, and it was more of an experiment to see if we could even grow the seeds, let alone grow plants. Now, we do have a couple of small cantaloupes forming, but nothing's really grown very big yet. So the jury's still out on whether or not this is going to be a success or not. So this is our zucchini bed, and we've already started picking from these plants. We've got a few here that might be ready in a couple of days. We're so happy with the way these came out. Much like everything, it took a little while for these things to really get going. And I think a lot of that actually had more to do with the temperatures here in Maine than the actual plants themselves. It really didn't get warm, real warm, to warm up the dirt until probably mid-June, and that's when everything really just started popping. Now last but certainly not least is this bed here. We've got some Brussels sprouts and we've got some cabbage over here. They've started growing, but they're a little dwarfed. Especially when we look at these and compare them to the rest of the vegetables that we're growing. Again, the jury's out on whether or not this is going to be successful. We've never had any success growing either one of these, so we'll see. Now before I wrap things up in this video, I did want to show you this area here. There is nothing but grass growing right now, but this is the future site of our hoop house. We haven't had time yet this summer to build it, and we certainly won't be using it this summer for anything, but we've got the frame, we've got all of the parts. All we have to do is actually build it, and we look forward to doing this summer so that next summer we'll be growing in the hoop house. Well, that does it. That is where the garden is today, and like I said, we couldn't be happier. You know, we went into this garden with one goal in mind: throwing it in the dirt. Whatever happened after that was gravy. And in our case, we're just blown away by what has transpired here in the garden. We've been eating lettuce for weeks. We've had cucumbers, we've had peas for weeks. We've had squash, we've had zucchini. We've been eating our blueberries off of our blueberry bushes for weeks. Everything just seems to be growing very well. Now, like I said, there are a few things that have, started growing well and then crashed and burned for whatever reason. But, the whole point of this year was to learn about what was growing well, what was not growing well, where was it growing, all those types of things we wanted to figure out this year. And so I think in a lot of ways, some of these failures and some of these crops that aren't making it, for instance, like our onions over here and the spinach over here, it's a good thing, It's a good thing because it is going to force us to think a little differently on our beds and what types of additives we're adding, and for that matter what we're growing. So we're pretty excited you know, for what we have, given where we started. It's important to note also that this is our first year here in Maine. This is the first garden we've ever grown here in Maine, and I'd say it's pretty successful so far. Well, hey, like I said, we do have a ton of projects going on the homestead right now, so I've got to get back to work. I'm going to let Henry here kind of watch over the garden, make sure everything is going well, which, by the way, knock on wood, so far we've been very fortunate that all of the vegetables have been safe in here. Between the electric fencing and the fencing and Henry, so far so good. All right, well listen folks, thanks for checking out our video. We will provide some more updates on the garden over the course of the next few weeks. And yeah, happy gardening. We'll see you guys on the next video.